My name is Gianni Russo, a.k.a. Carlo, the infamous son-in-law from The Godfather. I'm now known as the Hollywood Godfather, and this is my story.
Before all of the wins in my portfolio, I was a little boy diagnosed with polio. Experimenting with cures, I tried every one. Felt everything in my right, but my left was numb. Walking with a limp, like will I ever run? Once again, or is this it? Am I forever done? Living in the hospital was never fun. Some people were cool, but not everyone.
Welcome, everybody. It's time for another Hollywood Godfather podcast. And we're changing our format a little because I got so impressed with a kid who contacted me, and the subject matter really triggered my curiosity because his show, which is a huge success, is called Dead Talk. And how he got involved with me, in touch with me rather, was, because of our podcast. But looking into why he created this show, I think it's interesting to give a little background on his father, who David is a junior. His father's deaf. His father's David F. Ferrugio. And I didn't mean to laugh because what I'm about to say is very serious. As a young boy, David lost his father as the first plane hit the World Trade Center in 9/11. And he was confused, obviously. And it's ironic because he was a young man. I was 12 when I was confronted with death. And until we got into the show together, he didn't realize how much involvement I've had with death at a young age and continuing. But his father was on the 105th floor of Tower 1 when the first plane hit the tower of World Trade Center. And he was a bond trader at Cantor Fitzgerald, which was one of the biggest firms. And he was there already 16 years, or 6 years rather. And there's a lot of parallels because his father came from Staten Island, which my grandmother and grandfather did. And I guess what I interpreted from David, who has the same name, and he's the producer of Dead Talk, that he tried to cope with it and adjust to it. So what we thought, and you're going to see David, we have certain clips. I did his show. It's got a tremendous, tremendous audience, fortunately. And we're going to introduce you to his network. So we'll combine them all. But I'm talking so much, I forgot to introduce Jeannie Raymond, the co-host.
Hello. That's okay. It's a fascinating story, and the more I've looked into him, it's pretty incredible. And not only has he found a way to help himself, he's found a way to help so many other people to learn to deal with death and how it affects you. And the older he gets, the more he's recognizing things as they've come along, and how it's affected him. He said when he was 30, it really hit him, and he's gone through and he's done some therapy, and he said, therapy's hard, but it's the only way to move forward. And his podcast, Dead Talk, I listened to that today. It's pretty incredible how his show has brought others to give you a different perspective on how they've dealt with death. There was one about a guy whose wife was diagnosed with cancer and said had a year left to live, and the way they coped with it. And it really, I can't wait to keep listening to it. And I've always got a podcast in my ear. So I'm really looking forward to. It's not easy. It's not easy to listen to, I've found, because it's heartbreaking. But it does give you some different ways. Not only is it just, good to hear different stories, but it can help give you ideas on how to cope with it and how to move forward. And I've found that just even with the little bit I've been able to listen to since you and I started talking about it, it really does give you so many different avenues as to what might be helpful for others. So I love that we're kind of mashing these two podcasts together, and I love that it's going to bring some, some new tools to our listeners as well. So I'm so glad you found him, or he found you.
He found me. And the interesting thing is, like you're saying, I obviously I'm 82 years of age now, but I started to have to cope with death early on when I got polio. And I was as the audience has heard before, but when you start to think the reality of dealing with this, and without the knowledge or the education, which I had none,
right?
I was like 6.5, 7 years of age, and
Yeah.
they were sterilizing beds and rolling them up. And my friend that I just made friends with went to heaven.
Yeah.
So I thought the most apropos way was maybe reflect on the Polio Ward. And you're going to see the clip of him and I even talking about that. And
Right.
it's a situation where, most people shouldn't even be thinking about a loss until later on in life. Maybe, like he unfortunately was untimely.
Oh, absolutely.
And
Well, and what you had to live through, Gianni. I mean, most little kids, I remember when my son was in kindergarten, his best buddy had an older brother that was crossing a street, and it was dark. It was like, I don't know, 11 o'clock at night, and he was across the street from where he lived, and a police officer drove by, and he crossed the street, and right then the officer got a call, flipped to Yui, made a U-turn, and as he turned around to take off on this call, hit this boy and killed him.
the
And
cop did.
yeah, it was at midnight, around midnight.
Wow.
And I mean, what a horrific accident. What a crazy, time. This cop's just turning around to go on a call. The kid waited for the cop to go by. There was nothing nefarious about it, but he flipped a Yui, not seeing this boy, and killed him. And my son was 5 years old, and the brother was 5 years old. And I remember the boy, he was so little. And I mean, these are little boys, 5 years old, and he's telling my son, "Come here," and taking him over to see his brother in the coffin. And
Oh my God. Oh, so you went to the wake also?
yeah, because they were best friends, and at the time the little boy was like, "Well, I'm going to get his Nintendo now." I mean, they just didn't have any idea of what that
Right.
meant.
Exactly.
And I'm thinking of you as a little boy, and here's your buddy across the room, and then they're gone, and you've got no one else.
Well, yeah, and that's why, as you and the audience probably heard the story before, it's so important that subconsciously we should really try to prepare ourselves for these type of things, because it's inevitable. You're going to have death coming no matter what.
Right.
But, to be shocked into it, that's
right.
I'll be honest, I always am with you. I'm shocked you took your son to the funeral. That was interesting.
Well, and the other little boy was there, and they were best friends. And I thought, I don't know how to support him. And I thought, well, he was going to be there, so I wanted him to know he still had his friends, and now his brother's gone, but he's still got his buddies to rely on, and I mean, they still remain.
See, now you saying it that way,
yeah,
that was very big of you, because you didn't know how your son was going to react to it.
Right.
But you're giving support to a kid that needed it. He has a void now. We don't have a brother.
Right.
But he has his best friend.
And they're still friends to this day. They just turned 40 years old.
Wow.
And they are still lifelong friends. And you look back and you think, I mean, I've got a best friend that I've had since I was 5 years old. And we've been through thick and thin, everything together. When my sister was passing away, she's the one I would call, and I would say, I'm struggling, and her mom just passed away. And like you said, and even David said on his show, or maybe it was the guest, we're all going to die. You know, it's part of life. And we know that, but I think we ignore it. I sure do. My mom's 88 years old, and I cannot even imagine my life without my mother. And every day's a blessing. She's 88. I mean, she's a spitfire, very healthy, but you know, tomorrow's not promised.
You know, see, even as much as I know you and you know me, a conversation like this brings out so much in both of us. And it's, and again, we have to thank Dave. I would have never thought of doing a show about that.
No.
And after I did a show, I was so impressed with him. In fact, I hope the audience likes him because he wants to come to my house here in New York City and film all of that. And I'm sure a lot of my listeners have been wanting to see the interior.
I
but
know.
I would let him come because there's so much history here
Right.
over the years, and the place is over 100 years old. But when you start talking about it, it's such a reality that when is it too early to prepare for death?
Exactly.
You
Well,
know, that's the thing. So it's
right. And you both were little boys. I can't imagine watching your friends just disappear the way you have, or your dad going to work one day and not coming home. You know, and he's pretty incredible kid. He talked about how strong his mother was and how she just had to keep it together.
And he drew off our strength.
Right.
That's great.
Yeah. He looks
So
back.
with no further ado, let's show that episode of the interview where he interviewed me about polio.
All right.
Most people don't know. In August 7th, 1949, I was like 6.5 years of age. I was put in Bellevue. In fact, on the car ride down here, every time I'm on the East Side Drive, the original building that I went into is still there. They built all that new, like 2 or 3 more blocks. Mm-hmm. But Bellevue Hospital was turned into a polio ward. I went to a clinic because I couldn't get out of bed. My mother snuck me to a clinic downtown on Mulberry Street. And the next day they came and took me from my house. I didn't know what was going on. I was 6.5 years old. I was going to church every day with my grandmother. I was becoming an altar boy. I was, but I got to that hospital. Talk about death. In the 5 years I was there, 2,300 kids died.
Jesus, that's from 6 to 11, 6 to 12, and you were seeing this death.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a hell of a start of your life to even, besides the fact that your illness is affecting you, you're just surrounded by death. So at that point, do you remember even having any faith that you were going to get out of there?
Well, that's all I thought about because, like, even one kid I remember, Robbie Martucci, a nice kid, the end of his bed and my bed were like across the aisle. There was only 20 beds in that ward. There was a lot of wards. We had nothing respiratory. We weren't in an iron lung like Roosevelt's daughter and all that. Mm-hmm. So my whole problem was my left side of my body, which nobody will ever know the difference because I wear 2 different size shoes, 2 different size gloves. But my left side still dwarfed to my right side, which became an asset to me later on too. We'll talk about. So I started becoming friends with kids because you're there in bed. No television, no radio, nothing. I got my radio, which is a great story, from Carlo Gambino for my 7th birthday.
Okay, so at that point in your life, you're already connected to all these people.
I didn't know why.
Oh.
See, I knew nothing about my family. Who did? I don't know, my uncles. I used to call Carlo Gambino my uncle all the time. He really wasn't my uncle. But I found out later, my uncle, who's now his son, is still the boss. I just left Palermo. I go to Sicily 3 times a year now. But the Russos, the guy who sent most of them here, his name is Giuseppe Genco Russo. And in the 40s, they were hanging people because they wanted to end the Cosa Nostra over there. And they hung a couple of my relatives and left them hanging in the street to send a message in Palermo till they were rotted. I didn't know these people sent Carlo Gambino to America when he was 17 years of age as a made guy already.
At 17.
at 17. Well, over there, 16, 17, either you are or you're not. Mm-hmm. They send him here to clean up the Moderanos who came here and were shaking down the Italian immigrants, getting protection from them. So that's how the 5 families started.
Incredible.
He came here. He sent Costello's family here. And Costello found me on the street selling ballpoint pens. I went to work for him when I was 13 until he died. He died in 73.
So when we're going to keep going back to, I want to go back to the story with where you were in the ward with polio. But at 13, were you mafia adjacent in a sense, or were you working for the mafia, as you just said?
I was working. By 13, I'm working for Costello.
Okay. Who's
now they call him the prime minister. He left the Genovese family. Him and Maya Lansky created the syndicate. Oh, man. And, that was it for me. I met Maya when I was 15. I'm around these guys all my life. But I have every license in the world. I got a liquor license, even in China. I got gun permits. I got machine gun permits.
I don't even know you can get machine gun permits. I live in California. That's a whole other story.
Well, you have to, that's federal license to have an automatic weapon.
Got it.
I got Thompson machine guns.
So we'll go back to the war. What happened there? So you got sent, Gambino sent you something when you were 7?
What happened, Dolores Barone, his niece, was my floor nurse. And this girl would get me the extra Jell-O, the extra pudding. I was just turning 7 years old, December 12th. So he sends me a transistor radio the night before because I was depressed, and she must have told him. Because I didn't know how interested he was in me because of my family. That was old school respect, So with this, she brings me a radio the night before. And she said, my uncle sent you this radio. I said, that's very nice of him. He said to tell you it fell off the truck. I didn't know what he meant. I'm a kid in bed. But that morning, I turned the radio on, December 12th. And up until that time, I only listened to Enrico Caruso, all those guys. Because my grandmother came from the same town in Naples that Enrico came. Now I'm listening to Sinatra. I didn't know who Sinatra was. That was his birthday that day, December 12th.
Okay.
So now I'm hearing about this guy from humble beginnings. His mother was a barmaid. His father worked Todd Shipyard. He inspired me because the guy's doing 5 shows a day. He was 10 blocks away. He was on Broadway. I'm on 31st Street.
Incredible.
And he became my mentor. I was his friend for 49 years.
So you actually got connected with Sinatra just after hearing it?
He not only that, he baptized my son Luciano. We traveled the world together. Him and I became friends with Grace Kelly long before anybody because she was in the Copra all the time. And she was friends, she was becoming an actress, and she lived at the Barbizon. So I used to go at night to pick up flowers for the table. I didn't know I was going to get flowers. All these young girls wanted to come because of Walter Winchell. They were inspiring actresses. So I met her. Then she met Prince Rainier. I got invited to the wedding. Then I was going to Red Cross Ball every year. I used to go with Sinatra. He said, how do you know all these people?
That's what I was wondering. Now it's all piecing it together. So, but even before Sinatra, I guess that was your first introduction to him. What was the rest of your life from 7 to 11 in the polio ward?
Nothing. Fortunately, I did research. I'm doing a show right now. I'm on the road with it. It's called the Gianni Russo Experience. And my research has found a picture of me in a full body cast that they put me in when I first got to Bellevue because I had no power in my left side at all. So they thought somebody came up with this idea, restrain him and build his elasticity muscles. So that's what I had a problem with, not respiratory. During that time, I became the poster boy for the March of Dimes.
These dots are just connecting. What the heck?
I know. And I found that out. I found that out 2 years ago when we did research on my book to find pictures. And now you can find anything. Today you put it in, it comes up. There I am. I was the poster boy for the March of Dimes. Franklin Delano Roosevelt and Eddie Cantor started the March of Dimes for polio research. That's why, part of American history, Roosevelt's on the dime.
I had no idea.
I'm saying.
Yeah, I had no idea.
And my life's like a history lesson indirectly.
Before we go into the next episode, I want to tell you where I'm going to be because love is in the air. And believe me, February 14th, I'm at Bernie's. It's at 7 o'clock, 3-course dinner, plus the show at the Red Horse. Now, if you want tickets, it's in New Jersey. And my good friend David Burke is the chef there. You will have a gourmet dinner like no other. To get tickets, go to redhorsebydb.com. That's redhorsebydb.com. Get the tickets. It's going to be a great night. And if anybody is up in South Boston, I'm going to be at Capo Supper Club, 443 Broadway in South Boston. And if you want tickets there, go to caposouthboston.com. This is an offer you can't refuse. It starts 12 o'clock in the afternoon.
Oh, wow.
I don't know if I'm going to get up, but anyway, I'll be there. And we're going to do a show, have fun. And that's President's Weekend. So Monday, we're off too. So these are the two things to be doing on those weekends if you're in that area. Okay, we're back, and we're going to talk about another show that David interviewed me on, and it was about Pablo Escobar. And you know, Jeannie, more about this because we've done this before, but talk about, a tragedy. This happened in my club.
Right.
After so many years. And for the people who don't know, I owned a club called State Street. I've owned it already by this time 8 or 9 years. And the gentleman came in, and you all know Steve Shariffa from Blue Bloods and obviously the Sopranos. He was my doorman because at the time he was going to the University of Nevada, and I had a lot of those kids, but I hired Steve and all the bigger kids and athletes because they were big enough, put them in tuxedos. And this one particular night, absolutely October 28th, 1989, a guy came in and he was throwing money around like we've seen before. They got big players in Vegas. He made a score and he was giving everybody $100 bills. And we put him on one of our class tables, table 7. And I picked up the phone where I used to be perched to watch my dining rooms in my casino from. And I said, Steve, who's the guy on 7? He said, I don't know, boss. He sees his guest and he's got carte blanche. So we loaded him up. We sent him a bottle of Cristal, a bottle of Louis XIII, some pate, caviar. And 10 minutes before after this all arrived at his table, he breaks the Cristal bottle and stabs his date in the face. Now, we don't know if he hit her eye or anything at this point. I picked up the phone and said, Steve, get over there. He said, I ain't going over there, boy. I said, you crazy? That's why I hired you for. That's how I got involved with this. And you're going to hear more about that with Pablo Escobar. And the people who don't know about Pablo Escobar, he was the drug lord, and he was living in a prison he created for himself. That's the deal he made with the government. And I will find myself in that prison 3 stories below and totally nude, shackled to a chair. And David is very eloquent in this interview. And I want Jeannie to add whatever she wants to that, knowing where this is going to go.
Well, exactly. I can imagine people find themselves in positions, nobody wants to take a life, but this guy cut your face wide open. He definitely, started the brawl, and you ended it in a room full of people. Thank goodness.
I like that start of the ball, like it was a dance.
Yeah, he got that going.
Oh yeah, I guess he never thought somebody was going to react the way I did.
Well, right. There's a lot of bullies out there, which obviously he was, but he didn't win that fight. So yeah,
No.
I'll let you go ahead and tell Dave the story, and we'll all listen to it, and we'll come right back.
We'll turn over to David.
You mentioned you confronted it and you took someone's life for self-defense. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I did that. Well, I've been tried on 3 murders, they're all self-defense.
Okay.
I've learned. Well, Pablo Escobar, guy, slit my throat, 81 stitches. See that?
Wait, what happened there?
In my club in Las Vegas, October 28, 1988. A guy comes in my club. Steve Sharippa from Blue Bloods and Sopranos was my doorman.
No shit.
He was going to UNLV, University of Nevada, and I used to have a lot of those kids. Andrew Agassi, all those kids were in school. So I knew them. They all came. And they worked at the door. And State Street was an interesting place. Sinatra, Sammy Davis, and Demont opened it for me for 3 days, no pay. No pay. And you know me, I got on the phones with all the taxi cab people and say, you won't believe who's on stage at this new place. But then I expanded that, made it 14,000 square feet, thanks to Steve Wynn. And this guy came in. I had the place for 10 years. I opened in 1980. Guy come in, which we always, my idea was to serve gourmet food till 6 a.m. because all the hotels, because of it being union, the only thing you could eat after a 12 o'clock show was go to a coffee shop. So I opened a gourmet room to serving food, white glove service, tableside, till 6 a.m. So they used to send everybody to me. Then I put a casino in. Forget about it. I was stealing $5,000 a day from myself. Figure $5,000 a day, 365 days a year is a lot of money.
Oh, man. Especially in that time.
Oh, my
more.
God, it was crazy. That's one thing I learned, how to make money early. So this guy comes in, and I see him. I'm up on perch. I had like 4 different dining rooms and a casino. I mean, I used to sit like when people came in, a holding area, a piano bar. And this guy come in. We've seen it 100 times, even got $100 bills or black chips to people because they just made a score. So I called the front door. I said, Steve, who's the guy? He said, I don't know. I says, where'd he come from? He says, Caesar's Palace. I said, how's he rated? They said, he's picking up this check. In fact, they want us to use our car to bring him over and then bring the check into the cage, which I loved. Because then they'd give me the cash, I put it in my pocket. So we hit him up right away. He was there 10 minutes. I sent him a bottle of Cristal, bottle of Louis XIII. His check was $1,800. He didn't get in the door yet.
Good God.
Next thing he does, he breaks the Cristal bottle and he stabs his girlfriend with it right in the face.
What?
Yeah, that's what I said.
Wait, what did I miss here? What triggered that?
They had some kind of an argument. I wasn't watching them. We hear the crashing in a bottle, and he stabs her right in the face. Thank God he missed a eye. So I called Steve. I said, get over there with some people. He said, I ain't going over there. I said, what do you think I hired you for? You a big schmuck?
Oh, my God.
No, so I go over there, and her face was covered already with napkin, but she was bleeding. I said, let me introduce myself. I said, I'm Gianni Russo. This is my club. Now, you hear those sirens? They're coming for you. So why don't you go out the back door? I don't know who you're with, or I don't want any problems. I had all kinds of guys in there. He says, no, man. I said, no, man. Where the hell are you from? He said, you don't want to know. I didn't know he had the bottle yet. So he made a motion like he was going for her. He swings around to get me.
Oh, man.
Fortunately, I'm agile enough. I go back, and he cuts me here. My chin is hanging. So now I'm saying, wait a minute. I always carry. I'm licensed in 46 states.
Okay.
So I figured I got to defuse the guy. I said, look what you did to my shirt. Are you crazy? I waited 6 months for this shirt. And the guy must be saying to himself, what the hell this guy took about his shirt for? He's bleeding. I just wanted to get my hand on my gun. Because I used to wear, at that time I was wearing Ralph Lauren, those straight buttons. Yeah. And I had a vest with two 5-shot Derringers in there. So as soon as I got diverted, I put the gun right to his head. I said, now, either you walk out the door now, you're going out in a black bag. He's F you. I said, really? I put 2 right in his head in front of 150 people.
Holy
my room was jammed. But guess what happens? He goes like this, like a mosquito hit him. He was so high on coke. That's why you got to shoot him right behind the ear, close him down right away.
Wait, so after you popped him, he was still
I
standing?
popped him. It spin around a while. See, if you shoot him here, that's why they're always, it's here you want him. Goes down.
Welcome back. We're back, and I just again want to tell you that love is in the air at Bernie's at the Red Horse Cafe. It's Valentine's night at the Bernie. Now, that's David Burke's, one of David Burke's gourmet restaurants. It's called the Red Horse by DB.com. To get tickets, just go online, redhorsebydb.com, get the tickets. It's a 3-course meal. If you know anything about David Burke, he's a renowned gourmet chef, and it'll be a night, I promise you, you do not want to miss, please. And then on that Sunday, it sounds like a mob joint I'm going to. It's on South Boston. It's Capo Supper Club. And for you people who are not in the mob, Capo means the boss. Capo de Capo is the boss of bosses. So that's on that Sunday afternoon. It starts at 12 o'clock, 443 Broadway. That's South Boston. Again, for those tickets, just go to Capo South Boston, all one word, .com. And
that's February 16th.
That's Sunday the 16th. Yep. And remember, Monday's a holiday, so let's get drunk together and we'll hang out. I'll be there all night. So
party up. So,
yeah.
Well, that's going to be fun. You are busy, Gianni. I'm telling you.
I love it. I can't wait. I got so many more great things coming up too. I can't believe it. They're coming in by the handful.
You don't sit still. Well, and just keep in mind, if you guys didn't have a pen in your hand and writing that down, we'll make sure you can find it on our Instagram. Please go in and follow us. You can see all of our stuff there. We'll put the links on there so you can get right to it. We'll be on Instagram and on Facebook. We'll make sure we've got that under Hollywood Godfather, Real Gianni Russo, and mine is Jeannie at Hollywood Godfather Podcast. So we'd love it if you follow us, tell your friends about us, and keep these stories going and pack those shows Gianni's got coming up. So.
Well, this next episode of David and Death Talk, we got into the Kennedys. And now that was early on in my life. Most people don't know that Frank Costello and Joe Kennedy during Prohibition amassed 30 to 50 million. They don't really know the true number. It's more like 50 million each in the 30s. And now he wanted his son JFK to become president. And what I love more about this story coming to light right now, our new president, Donald Trump, is for the first time is releasing the Warren reports. Every president, every president, I think 61 years, has not released these reports. And what's more interesting about these reports, because I already know what's in them, and what they didn't want to release is the fact of what went on when John Kennedy, we all know, became president. I was at the inaugural. And the sad thing about that, Joe Kennedy insisted his son Bobby become the attorney general.
Right.
And he didn't realize Bobby had a vendetta against his brother John and all his gangster friends. That included Joe's friends, like Frank Costello. And that thing turned into a fiasco.
Right.
And what most people didn't know, why the mob backed JFK to become president, because Joe said, soon he was in office, they would invade Cuba and give them all the casinos. That was the only reason. Well, that didn't happen. Let's go to David and his interview on that, and we'll be right back.
I know you spoke about JFK a little bit, correct?
Yeah.
So someone sent me, I think it was Ken, my mom's partner sent me something about some guy, I forget his name, but he admitted to being one of the shooters at JFK. I don't know the guy's name. Does that ring a bell about one guy admitting he was one of the shooters?
Well, there was only two guys alive, and they was about to bring the one guy that I know personally because he was with Chicago. See, most people don't know the story. When Joe Kennedy went to Frank Costello while his son was the senator to become president, he said, I need all your friends to back my son, all the unions, all the mob, because he realized a Catholic president ain't going to get in.
Mm.
And John F. Kennedy already had a reputation of being a womanizer. So for the next 6 months, I was going all over the world, just dropping envelopes as a messenger for Costello. Because Costello and Mylance, he already had the syndicate. Between the Culinary Union and International Teamsters and every brotherhood you want to talk about, that's how he got in.
Mm-hmm.
Joe Kennedy, as part of American history, promised that as soon as his son got in, they would bomb Cuba and give all the casinos back. That's what the mob did it for, because Fidel Castro threw them out. The mistake Joe made, not even John had nothing to do with it. Joe wanted Bobby Kennedy to be Attorney General. Joe didn't realize his son was a mama's boy and a righteous idiot, and he went after everybody that got his brother in.
Okay.
Now 2 years have gone by. 2 years. They did nothing but harass everybody that got him in. So now I get flown by Costello, because I always represented him. He would never go after Appalachia. He went to no more meetings, and he was getting old anyway. So he said, I want you to be my eyes and ears, go to this meeting. And I did it 100 times. I just report what I saw. I get to Calneva. I don't know how many people who knew what Calneva is. Calneva was a casino built on the California and Nevada border. And it was owned by the mob, primarily Chicago. But you could drive to California and walk into the casino. You're right on the border. See, the law, most people don't know, the law, if you're a felon, even in Nevada today, if you're a felon, you have 24 hours to report you're in the city. You'll just get locked up. Because gaming is recognized by the citizens of Nevada. It's not legalized. It can't be.
Right.
It would be unconstitutional. Every city has to vote it in. Well, now they all have it. But during that time, so I go there, and who's there? Marilyn Monroe, Frank Sinatra, Sam Giancana. And Sam Giancana, even the pictures I own today, I got them from him. I got them from his daughter. He died. But what this all has to do with the Kennedy election. So we're all poolside and all that. And there was nothing to tell anybody anything yet. Till the end of the day, Sinatra told Marilyn Monroe why she was there. He said, listen, you got to do us a favor. And she'd do anything for these guys. She knew them forever. They wired her room with cameras like they did J. Edgar Hoover. I don't know if did you hear what they did to J. Edgar Hoover? Most people don't notice. J. Edgar Hoover was a cross-dresser.
What?
Yes.
That's out there? That's known?
Nobody ever realized it till later. Chicago had a party, and they got him there, and he's dressed as a woman. They got all the pictures. That's why J. Edgar Hoover always denounced, there's no mafia. That's bull. Until Bobby got in. When Bobby got in, then he created the RICO Act. It was there forever, and he started using it, and Hoffa couldn't say anything at that. I mean, Hoover, J. Edgar Hoover. But he was a cross-dresser. So now they wanted Marilyn to sleep with Bobby, because when John became president, he said, Marilyn, I can't be with you right now for 2 years. Give me 2 years. Because, I'm a Catholic and married to Jackie. After that, I'll divorce her and marry you. That's how naive she was. So we don't know what was going on with her and Bobby. And she starts screaming at Sinatra. I'm going to the press with this. I want nothing to do with these Kennedys. They're all, so they knew. So I come back. I used to meet him at the Waldorf at 11 o'clock in the morning. He said, what went on there? I told him. He said, they're going to kill her. This was the last weekend in July in 1962. Another part of history. That morning, on Monday morning, he told me they're going to kill her. August 4th, the headlines, Marilyn Monroe was dead.
Get out of here.
Can't make this stuff up. That's why my book is such a bestseller. People can't believe it.
I mean,
It's all in my book.
I'm still hanging on to the Hoover cross-dresser shit, let alone the Marilyn Monroe reason for her death.
Hello.
And we haven't even gotten to the Kennedy assassination.
And I often wonder because when she went to her room that day, it was like 7 o'clock.
She's out of control. Okay.
She called Joe DiMaggio because that was her ex-husband. He was in San Francisco. She said, come and get me. And she was really upset. He made the mistaken call and asked for Sinatra. And Sinatra said, mind your own business. I often wonder, what if he came and got her? Because I loved her. I mean, I was, she took my virginity when I was 16.
Well, you slept with Marilyn Monroe?
For years.
Oh, my God.
No, that's another story.
I don't even know where to go. I was like, there's so many directions I want to go with this, but please continue on.
No, but it's crazy. But anyway.
We'll talk about that off camera.
Yeah.
But I do want to transition back in regards to, okay, so now Marilyn's gone, but then obviously there's the mafia ties with JFK, and they weren't pulling through with what they thought they were going to do.
Right.
So in regards to the JFK assassination, which I've heard a million times, but I'm just curious, strictly mafia related, was there any other coordination from your understanding with governmental ties?
I'm going to tell you who was actually everybody involved.
Yeah, let's go with that. That sounds exciting.
There was 5 mafia groups. They all had their own shooters. That's how I met Lee Harvey Oswald.
When?
With Carl Marsalis.
Okay.
Because they had to give the okay. Again, to get JFK into office, I had to visit all these people a lot.
Yes, you're kind of lobbying a little.
I was just bringing envelopes. They all knew me because of Costello. And then I was doing that again 2 years later to the same guys because they're going to whack. I took an envelope to Hyannisport. As I was leaving the driveway, I'm hearing screaming in the house. Then I realized what was in the envelope. I brought an envelope to Joe Kennedy, and they said, we're going to start killing off your kids. That's when he got the stroke. He was in a wheelchair.
It was a real stroke with quotes?
Joe Kennedy got a stroke.
Okay.
He didn't even know his kids were dead.
Oh, man.
He was oblivious to it all.
But I want to go back to the where you were going with the JFK thing. You said the 5 families were all tied. So
they wanted their own shooters.
They all had a common interest. They all had to come and make sure the job was done.
Yep.
So is that like the one time where all 5 families had like the similar mission?
It's not 5 families. It's 5. No, it was
5 mafia, different mafias.
Hello.
Okay.
Chicago is not. Chicago is the most organized. Forget the 5 families in New York. They're all Italians are always jealous of each other. I don't care what you're doing. You could be a house painter. He stinks.
Yeah,
we never stuck together. Mm. No, they wanted their own shooters because they got nothing for what they did.
Oh, that should have been muted. Surprised. That might be. Is anyone I should worry about?
No, Johnny Roselli, who I got to be friends with, was Chicago's guy. I met Lee Harvey Oswald with Marcellos.
And you knew Lee Harvey was going to be one of the guys at this point?
I found out later.
Right.
I was on a ship on November 22nd when I came back from my last trip from all these people, and I had to deliver the answer. I was in Chicago again. I was in Detroit, New Orleans. I met anybody. They all knew me as the kid. I was already friends with them for 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
So now I'm coming back to get the message. And when they didn't want to write it down or nothing, they used to go like this when you walked in. So I went over, and they tell me in my ear. I went to 5 states. The same message. It's on. Get on a plane. The last one I was with Marcello's. I was ready to sit down and have a dish of pasta vongole bianco. Moscow's had the best. He said, no, you got to go see that guy. I flew back. I go into the curtain at Peacock Alley like I did 100 times. It goes like this to me. Just give me the message. I gave him every message. It's on. I felt like an idiot. It's on. It's on.
Not knowing what it even meant.
No. What it meant, November 22nd, it's on.
Right.
He reaches under the table. Next to him, he gives me a manila envelope. He says, "You're leaving on Thursday." I said, "Okay." I never questioned him. "You're going to be gone for a while. There's 15,000 in there. Go to Layton's, get some, that's where we were shopping at that time. Get 6 or 7 suits. You're going to leave on the Independence, the ship." Never asked him. He says, I asked him, I said, "How long should I be gone?" He said, "Don't worry. We'll let you know. In Barcelona, somebody's going to get off the ship. They'll be there with a sign." I got off the ship. You won't believe the sign said. "The Kid," because that's they used to call me.
Oh, my Lanta.
And I was so pissed because I never went back to the ship. I had all the clothes on there. So I said to the guy who picked me up, I said, "Vinny, Vinny, you need the clothes. Come with me. Don't worry about it." I was there for 2 years
2 years.
because they were looking for me, because they associated me. They were watching all these people. Who's this guy keeps coming and coming? Then the assassination, forget about it. We were going under the Verrazano Bridge. I'll never forget it. And they said the president was shot, not dead. Then we went to bed. Then that morning we got up, the ship newspaper, he was dead. Then they had a picture of Lee Harvey Oswald and Jack Ruby, who I knew because he worked for Costello in Dallas. He ran all the numbers and all that shit there. They told him, "If you kill Lee Harvey Oswald, you'll be a hero." So they got him into the cell to kill him. That was crazy.
So then, clearly, obviously, the mafia was orchestrating it. But what was the association with CIA or the government? Like, did they just look the other
The
way?
CIA, let's go one by one. When John F. Kennedy got in, he fired the guy from the CIA.
Right.
They hated him.
Right.
So not only did they have the CIA as a backup, they had the Texas Rangers for Lyndon Baines Johnson. Lyndon Baines Johnson brought him to the target.
Jesus, Mary and Joseph.
That guy was not leaving there that day.
It's wild to think that's 60. It's
61.
60 years ago. So it's like
62.
Yes, it's crazy to think that was happening.
No, 63.
That was happening then. What the hell are they doing now?
Well, welcome all of you back. I hope you liked this interaction with David. As you could tell by now, he's a great interviewer. Next week, we're doing 3 more episodes that you're going to really enjoy also. More about the Kennedys, more about Marilyn Monroe, even Dorothy Kilgallen, that people don't realize that she was assassinated by the same assassin. And we're going to get into detail with that. Have a great weekend. Make the reservations at Bernie's, the Red Horse. Come up to Capo. Jeannie, have a great weekend.
You too, Gianni, and thank you so much. Please check us out on Instagram and Facebook. That's where you can get all of these things. You can click right on the links and we'll link you in so that you make it easier to get there and get those reservations.
And also, we have a mailbag show coming up in 2 weeks. So get those cards and letters coming in. So
Absolutely.
you get ideas for more shows. If you are an avid listener, we take your suggestions and bring them
Absolutely.
into shows. We'll even mention your name and tell your friends.
That's exactly right. Well, let me tell you, Gianni, I was at work today, and it's funny because people know, I do the show now, and I had one of my friends say, hey, I've got a question for Gianni. And so I said, all right, lay it on me. I'll put it in the show. Because now that they know, they started listening and they know about the mailbag there. And that's how I felt when I first started asking you questions. It was like little conspiracies.
You were an audience. You were an advocate.
That's exactly right. I came from the audience, and I just kept peppering you guys with questions. Not only do your questions, it's fun to get them answered and to get Gianni's perspective. When usually it's amazing how many things you have answers to, or maybe know, or maybe have heard something about.
When you're old as I am and been around as long as I am,
you hear some stuff.
Or I'll ask people who do know.
That's right. And not only that, it gives us great ideas for shows. So please keep those coming in. You can do them on, if you rate and review, we'd appreciate that. We'd appreciate some great ratings. You can put them on many, many different ways of doing it. So please send those in. It's always fun and gives us great ideas for shows. Keeps Gianni's memory coming
What
up.
I want to do too, I want to share with our audience because they're like family to us.
Absolutely.
We may be doing 8 half hours for Netflix.
Well,
which
that
would be really interesting based on the book. So it would be Jeannie and I and a guest of celebrities stopping by and expanding this. We have like 600 out, 300 hours up, which is 6 years of shows.
that's
So
right.
we caught somebody's eye and we're getting into negotiation on that. We'll keep
Right.
you up to date on that. So until next week, God bless. Keep the cards and letters coming in. We love you all. Until next week. Good night,
All right.
Jeannie.
Good night, my dear. Love you.
And that was that. But I'll be back.
No regrets, no complaints. Lived a life with no restraints.